Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea C. Williams, and I am the founder and CEO of Reimagine Talent. We're a national talent and workforce development firm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. I want to start by thanking the T.A.G.S team for the invitation of an opportunity to support each and every one of you as ERG leaders. I'm so grateful to be able to spend some time with you and to talk a little bit about a subject that's not really foundational in ERG training and development spaces, and it is around your career growth and development as leaders. So a little bit about me. I am a brown-skinned, tall, curvy Black woman with braids and a big smile. I built my company in New York City, excuse me, after a decade on Wall Street. So I'll share a little bit about how my involvement and engagement in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives served as the bedrock to found and lead my company. I lead a team of amazing humans across the US who are supporting multi-generational organizations. And outside of work, I'm a lover of cycling, cooking, live music, and home decor. We work with industries cross-sector at Reimagine Talent, so I will bring into this conversation some of the best practices in ERG career development that we have seen with our partners. So we don't have the typical time allocated to this session. This is normally a 60 to 90-minute session, and lucky for you, I'm putting it in to 40 minutes. So we are going to spend this time, and really you'll get the highlights of how to catapult your career. But I just want to let you all know that it is typically an hour and a half. So there's a few things that we'll cover in our time together today. We'll talk a little bit about the state of work. We'll talk a little bit about your experience navigating your career in this new normal. We'll explore 3 practical steps that you can take to catapult your career, and then we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. I want to start by stating the obvious because I think this is important, but I don't want you to be misinformed on the intent of this particular topic. My goal in this session is not for you to assume that ERGs should be leveraged simply for self-advancement and self-promotion, but it is that you are mindful that every opportunity you have as a part of your career portfolio should be beneficial to you and should be intentional in helping you prepare for your future. So let's talk a little bit about the state of work and what it means for your career. We are navigating through significant change. Understatement. You as ERG leaders and the companies that you represent have seen significant change taking place in the workforce, in the workplace, and certainly in the marketplace. So with this change, I believe there's significant steps, actions, and partnerships that you can form to help you stay ahead of the pack. So before I talk a little bit about some of those changes and what it means for you, I want to welcome you to engage in our Slido poll. So if you have your phone, please scan the QR code on the left-hand corner and answer the following question. As an ERG leader, what's top of mind for you in navigating your work and your life in our current environment? What are some of the realities that are impacting how you are showing up as an individual and as a leader at your organization? Please share them in the response queue. I'm seeing responses come in. Soft skill development, or like I like to call them, power skills, developmental opportunities. Maybe you're considering how do you elevate your skills or shift your skills for a new environment. Stress management, oh my goodness, anxiety and workload and pressures are real across the board, absolutely. Flexibility, management support. Again, time balance. How do I integrate life and work? Manager support. How do I make sure I'm connected? Some of you are in fully remote teams. Some of you have a hybrid schedule. Some of you are back in person, and you're considering how do you keep connection strong with your people leader? And certainly there's continued conversations around engagement and value. I'll give it a couple more seconds before we move on. Making your ERG leadership contributions count in performance reviews. Absolutely. So up at the top, we are seeing as our banner topics, how to maximize opportunities, and how to connect as a manager or with your manager are opportunities that you all are keeping top of mind. Excellent. So let's take a moment and talk a little bit about where we are. I'm going to hone in on the perspective of work as it relates to our workforce, our 5 generations who are in the workforce today, and our workplace, these spaces where we work to create impact in the marketplace and in our communities. This is a short list. We could go on for hours of some of the things that we are experiencing. Certainly a hiring slowdown. There's been an economic impact this year that I don't think has left any industry or sector behind. Our workforce is shifting and getting younger. We've got retirement happening for boomers. Some are holding on very strong. Skills-based hiring, gig economy. Most of you here, or some of you here, know someone who is working traditional but may have a passion project or side business. AI, topic of discussion, and one that will continue to grow and evolve. And we're certainly navigating through an election, which will impact the workforce and ultimately, next topic, our workplace. So when we're thinking about what's impacting the workplace today, again, a cost-conscious environment, work dynamics, there's still this debate about how we work, where we work, and why we work. Burnout that came up in the poll a couple seconds ago. Purpose and vision and passion are big themes that are coming up in work. And then certainly we're at this very interesting point as it relates to the state of DEI. Some organizations prioritizing and they've kept their foot on the gas. Others are reprioritizing and looking at how DEI shows up as a part of their organizational fabric. And then certainly there are others who have said that they're not going to continue focusing on progress. It will be for you to determine where you stand. I would presume most people here have their foot on the gas because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't important to you. And so hopefully as we go through this conversation, you will see the opportunity that exists when we are intentional and mindful of our DEI impact. And again, the election that's coming up in the United States in a couple weeks will be important. So we want to make sure we stay abreast of that. I want to take a moment as we talk through where we are, and I say we holistically, to consider how you are feeling in this current environment that we find ourselves. I believe it's important to check in before we get to practical application. And so some of you have probably seen this before in therapy, and it is an emotions wheel that gives you the opportunity to assess emotions. Now, we should know emotions can change minute to minute, and they can change depending upon the spaces we find ourselves. While emotions are not fact, they're vital indicators of what's going on in your head and your heart. And when we talk about our career and catapulting our career as ERGs, we want to take a moment to consider how we're feeling about where we are today. And so I would love for you all to take a couple seconds. Again, here's our fun little tool we'll be using throughout the session to share your response to the following question. What are some of the emotions and feelings you hold today related to where you are in your career? I'll give you 30 seconds to respond in the Slido poll. Anxious, okay. Hear that every week from folks. Frustrated, stagnant, unknown, overwhelmed, disappointed, fearful, late, but I'm making progress, excited, concerned. Okay, give it a couple more seconds. Disappointed. Now, the larger it is means the more it came up in response. So I want to center us on some people's reality today that there is some disappointment, there's some frustration, there's some angst around your career. And that is why this conversation today on how to leverage your ERG experience to take you forward is so important. But I don't believe that we can have healthy conversations and take career action steps unless we're honest, transparent about where we are. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about how these emotions fit into how you can be mindful in your steps forward, but I appreciate your candor. Now more than ever before, as we've talked through where we are in society and how you are feeling in this current moment, it becomes essential for us to consider, where are you going? And I literally mean you. So I want you now to put on your seatbelts and focus in on your experience, not your ERG at large, not your company, but where you're going and how you're going to get there in a changing world of work. So now we're transitioning to a topic around career development. And it really is important to consider four pillars that are outlined here today. First of all, who are you? Knowing yourself, your values, your interests, your goals, your visions, which is different than each and every person who's here. What options are available to you? In the last session that I sat in for the summit, there was conversations around internal mobility and career transferable skills. It's important for you in a changing world of work to consider what is available to me within my organization. And if I choose to go external, what's available to me within my industry or sector? Now, we're here today to focus on the bottom too, which is to make sure we are focused and intentional and stewarding the resources that are available to us, such as our ERG involvement. And then ultimately, and we're going to end the session with this, we have to take action. Okay. And so, one thing I want to bring our attention towards is in a changing work landscape, we need to think about our careers differently. Most of us here have heard of the traditional career ladder. You get your role, you knock it out of the park, you get advanced, you get the promotion, and you're moving up and up and up and up. Most of the time, people presume that to be through titles and hopefully compensation aligned with that. But in a changing world of work, at a time when disruption is the new normal, I want to challenge you all as you think about the breadth of your career to understand that the career lattice approach, meaning that you are not just focused on the next promotion, that's the traditional pathway, is a really healthy way for you to consider building skill, building relationship, and gaining exposure that ultimately can help you in a changing landscape. So when we talk about the career lattice, this might mean that you make a move to another function within your organization. It could be that you have a cross-functional move out of your org, a vertical move to another area within marketing. If you're in marketing, it's maybe you're in SEO and you move to email marketing. It might be that you realign and there's a break that's taken for you to do more development or skill work outside of the workplace. You are just at a place of burnout. And so taking action in your career and making a role move wouldn't be wise because you need to center yourself. This is why I asked the question about where are you right now? Because when you are aware of where you are mentally and emotionally, you can better think about the opportunities that present itself to support your current reality. ERG leadership can support your career journey. It should support your career journey. I believe it's important for us to consider that ERG leadership helps us to build skills, leadership, and relationships. But all too often, I'll be honest with you, I feel that there are some who are part of ERGs who aren't maximizing the resource to the fullest. So they've got the wonderful partners like T.A.G.S, they're growing their ERG communities, but as an individual, maybe there are missing opportunities that could be helping catapult individual impact and performance. So as we go through this session, I'm putting the mirror on you, the microphone is on you, for you to really consider, am I maximizing my experience in my ERG? Personal question for you to consider right now, yes or no. So I want you, because I think it's healthy for us to be real with one another, to respond to the question anonymously. Do you feel that your ERG leadership has supported your career development today? I'm going to give you 20 seconds to respond. Is ERG leadership supporting where you are today? Yes, no, or are you unsure? 10 seconds. So 56% of you, shifting. This is it. Pause. 58% of you, that's it, are saying yes, right? ERG leadership is actually beneficial. You can think and see the ways that it has played a role in your career trajectory, in your current role. 20% of you are saying, no, I can't point to an opportunity. And it shifted again. 19% of you said, 24% of you said you're unsure. Okay. And so most people have said ERG leadership is beneficial. And then others are like, I'm not really sure yet. Well, I definitely want to direct this conversation to those of you who said unsure or no, because I want to make sure that if we're saying yes to another community opportunity, activity, experience, whatever you want to call it, we need to make sure we're fully stepping in, we're fully taking advantage of what is before us. Because one thing I've learned, and I'm going to share this with you all shortly, is that there is truly no opportunity wasted when we truly step up to the plate. Okay. And I think that's vital. For those of you who've said ERG leadership has been beneficial, I'm going to share with you shortly some action steps that I'm hopeful will be helpful for you as you continue to elevate and amplify your impact. So now we get into the good stuff. I've warmed you up a little bit. We're going to talk about how you can leverage your ERG leadership to propel your career. But before we do, I want to make something really clear to you that I have noticed and observed and actually been told as I navigate through spaces where we're supporting leaders and we're working with ERGs. And it's this concept, own your career. And I can remember when I left Spelman College and I headed to Wall Street to start my career, I was meeting with an alum and they mentioned to me, Chelsea, I want to let you know when you are stepping into this industry and you are moving to the big city, and I know that you're going to want your your manager to help you navigate through your career and help show you the pathway to advancement and getting to the next step. You need not forget that you have to own your career. And at the time I looked and I said, well, of course, I'll own my career, but I didn't necessarily know what that means to own your career. Now, here we are in this new environment, change as the normal, and owning your career has never been more important than now. So when we talk about owning our career, there's three things I want you all to consider. Number one, when we talk about owning your career, it is about relationships. Now, this has mentors as the pillar, so we'll go with that for now. But the big piece of owning your career is tapping into authentic, values-aligned relationships. Hopefully, they become mentors, maybe even expanding to sponsors, people who can help you navigate through a world or space you may not fully understand. When you own your career, you are also mindful of opportunities. What opportunities exist to support me where I am now and where I aspire to go? It could be skilling, it could be certifications, it could be degrees, it could be communities, it could simply be opportunities in your ERG to flex skills or practices that you would not have in your normal job. Owning your career is also making sure that you are values aligned and mission aligned to what you're saying yes to. Does the flame of passion burn as you are engaging in particular opportunities like your ERG leadership? Does it feel like more of a burden, or does it feel like something that you're lit up to do? These are questions outside of this session that I want you to ask yourself. Am I owning my career today? The mentors and relationships necessary for my advancement, the opportunities that help me to skill up and gain exposure beyond where I am, and the joy that we all here need to know is so vital in keeping us headstrong and clear in our path of purpose and impact. So as we prepare to close out, I'm going to give you 3 steps that you all can take to catapult your impact in your ERG. The first is you can pursue entrepreneurial opportunities. Many of you are already doing that. We talk a lot about entrepreneurs, but can we spotlight the intrapreneurs? Intrapreneurs are what you all are doing, building from within. Some of you are taking it a step further where you're making marketplace impact. You're working with the business. And so there really is this birthing of new opportunities that are impacting bottom line if you're a for-profit organization, or community if you are a nonprofit organization. Now is a vital time to amplify your people skills. ERGs are one of the few places where you are building people skills to work with different people from you in a way that you likely will not get if you're just coming to your job and leaving for the day. You're being stretched to work with people and navigating through some of the most challenging parts of being human and being in the workplace. Finally, and we talked a little bit about this, ERGs provide you exposure across industry, across sector, across your function or division, titles, roles, tenures. And it's a very wonderful place when intentional to build the career board of directors that can support opportunities for you into the future. So let's dive into these today. Number one, pursue entrepreneurial opportunities. Well, let me define what that means for you. Entrepreneur develops a new idea within the framework of a company. They get all the resources and access to their company that external or entrepreneurs do not receive. So one of the benefits of being in your ERG and being a leader in your ERG is you've got the resources of an organization that you can tap into to drive impact and change. As an entrepreneur, I can tell you that's amazing. So if it's an opportunity for you to consider if you're showing up, I would ask you, are you maximizing the resources your organization has available to you? When you consider what entrepreneurial impact can look like as an ERG leader, some things I want you to consider are the ability to take risks. Oftentimes, when you're launching new programs or initiatives, the risk is it going to be impactful and reach our intended impact or not? But you've got the space and opportunity to do that. You have the ability to launch new initiatives, form external partnerships that help you determine bridging communities together or reaching new subsets of the population. And certainly you have the opportunity to work independently within the company and to work cross-functionally towards impact and greater purpose. When I think about my own journey, I had no idea that my time on Wall Street would be preparing me for leading my company, Reimagine Talent, today. As I was involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, working with the late Vernon E. Jordan, I saw myself taking on skills and taking on opportunities that would not have been available to me if I had not said yes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and yes to leadership. So for each of you, as you're thinking about your involvement in ERGs today, I want you to understand from someone who has sat in that seat that no opportunity, no past experience is wasted. But this is if you're truly stepping up to the plate and making sure that your time in ERGs is meaningful and impactful. I think about one of the ERGs who worked to support entrepreneurial impact at the Boston Scientific Group. And they were really going out to support health disparities in a region of the globe in India. And their India and US chapters wanted to launch what they called healthcare camps as a way to address access to resources within their business units and in partnership with NGOs on the ground. So they had an idea, they saw a need, they realized the only way they were going to get to impact was through partnerships, and they worked together to ultimately impact 800 students and their families, doing impactful work such as eye and dental screenings, offering students the ability to gain eyeglasses to support their education, and allowing opportunities to access to health to dentists. Now, ultimately, this became the prototype of an initiative that they ended up scaling across the organization and really showing the power of ERGs to respond to needs and to power resources that did not exist before they came together and worked collaboratively. Number two, amplify people leadership skills. We talked a little bit about this earlier. ERGs are one of the few resources within workplaces that offer a robust opportunity to build leadership skills. Now, when we talk about leading today, everyone talks about leadership, and then disruption happens and leadership is in a question. So when we talk about people leadership, we're talking about things like empowering people. How do you empower people when they are tired, burnt out, anxious, and disappointed? That's a question. How do we connect with where people are? How do we inspire people to show up if they're not feeling seen, valued, respected, heard? How do we lead change? Because change management and this concept of navigating workplaces through change is the reality of where we find ourselves today. And we're not even scratching the surface of change to come. And then ultimately, how do we share vision? One of the beautiful things that ERGs have done since their founding is to create a space for like-minded, like-valued people to connect and drive change together because we create greater impact in partnership. So let's talk a little bit about the skills that you all are building as ERG leaders that translate to what's necessary to lead people today. And I get that some of you might be saying, people leader, I'm not a people leader. I don't manage anyone right now. People leadership can even be when you are working cross-functionally, you're working colleague to colleague. How do you influence your colleagues? So I want to break the barrier of thinking if you're not directly managing someone, you can't still be building people skills and it can't still show up in your workplace. So when you think about ERG skills that translate to people leadership today, they are skills like influence. How are you influencing your colleagues to understand the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and for leaders to see this as an important part of the fabric of your organization? How are you influencing communities or influencing your colleagues to form partnerships with communities? How are you leveraging functional skills, marketing, sales, operations, which you do day in and day out to help support those you manage and lead? Because at the end of the day, we've got to be doing an amazing job in our day jobs and really taking advantage of that opportunity as a way for people to say, yeah, I'm interested in being a part of ERGs because I know that ERG leaders and ERG members are really showing up and giving their work their all. Final two pieces, vision. We talked about that before. People need vision, particularly now. They need to know where they are and they want to see where they're going. They want to feel the connection, purpose. And so ERG leaders already have that going on. There is vision, and that can translate into being a people leader as you encourage your team towards making an impact in your function or business area. And then finally, you see passion. And notice how these words are coming back around from before. Passion matters today to those who are in the workplace. And ERGs are some of the most passionate leaders that exist in the workplace. So if we can translate that passion for ERGs into the passion of supporting and developing people, we have a really powerful way to leverage ERGs as a way to support culture, to build belonging, and ultimately to drive organizations forward. I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about leading at work today and have you reflect on leadership in four buckets that I've got outlined. Now, this is a model from the Center for Creative Leadership in Greensboro, North Carolina, and it talks about how oftentimes when people step into work, they go from individual contributor, where they don't necessarily have people leadership responsibilities like coaching, managing, and leading, to the more they take on responsibilities, the more they have to lean into coaching and leadership competencies to support their organization forward. So as you think about where you are today in your role as an ERG leader, and you think about where you aspire to go in the role that you hold, I want you to consider the difference in the competencies that are necessary when you are a sole contributor to what's necessary as you start leading people in projects, leading leaders, and leading the business. Do you notice that leadership competency and that coach competency starts to expand? Well, I want you to take some time as you think about your career to be honest about what it is that you truly aspire. Because I believe in that honesty is how you can really tap into your ERG in a way that is authentic to where you aspire to go in your career. So let's pulse it a little bit because I want to hear a little bit about how this group is feeling about leadership and your impact. As it relates to leadership within your profession today, where do you aspire to be, or where are you? If you're at the, you're already there, in terms of your support of organizations. Are you interested in leading people in projects? Are you interested in being an individual contributor? And that's okay if you don't want to deal with people. Are you interested in leading the business? Are you interested in leading leaders? Leading leaders is your C. Leading leaders are functional and business area leadership. Leading the business is obviously C-suite, executive suite. Okay. What are you all interested in the house? I'm going to give you 20 seconds to respond. So this is very interesting. and oftentimes not a part of conversations we have around career development. What do you actually want to do? This framework is helpful as you think about where you spend your time and which parts of the ERG ecosystem you explore and which ones that you might flex on from year to year. So 44% of you say leading leaders. It could be functional leadership. And of course, it depends on your organization. 33% of you said leading people in projects, and then leading the business executive, 22%. Of course, no one said individual contributor because, you are ERG leaders anyway. You've said yes to leadership. So I'm not surprised by that. But here's the thing. If you decided that that was best for you, it doesn't still mean that you can't have an impact. But so often we don't have the conversation about what aspirations are. And so we end up doing things that are not aligned to the end goal. So this is something that I want you to sit on even after this session. And certainly as we prepare for this last pillar, I'm going to give you some insights and best practices to support the development. So depending on what you responded to in the last the last poll, excuse me, there are some competencies and skills that are necessary for you to understand. And these are skills as of 2024, so you can bet that they will continue to evolve in the years to come. You'll want to consider, if you are interested in leading an organization, skills like social intelligence, problem solving, conflict management, decision-making become vital. If you are interested in leading others, interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, inclusiveness, coaching become important. See these words coming back up again. And then if you're interested in leading yourself, so this is like the individual contributor, learning agility, being adaptable, flexible, having industry expertise and going deep in your specialization, managing yourself become skills that are vital. And again, you can use this as a reference point after the session. And there's certainly areas where I believe you should be mindful as you're setting performance goals. If you're working with a coach, these are places that you can get support on. And certainly within your ERG, you can position yourself in places that help you build and evolve these skill sets. Number 3, our final point before Q&A, you can build your career board of advisors. And your career board of advisors are people in your network who act as independent advisors to you. So are they answering every question that's top of mind for you? No. Do you have to go to each of your advisors with the same questions or concerns? Absolutely. But they are accessible, they're supporting your vision, and they're offering guidance. And so one of the things you might consider are, where are you today based off of some of these prompting questions I've asked you? And how could your career board of advisors help you see a perspective that maybe you don't have preview to, or help you navigate through some of those emotions you brought up before, disappointed, frustrated, anxious, in a proactive way that doesn't keep you stuck, but moves you to empowerment and action. So what are some examples of career board of advisors I want you to keep in mind? Now, this has changed. There used to be a time when the focus was mentor, sponsor. Some of you all remember. We've evolved that some because wellness has become a vital part of our development as people. Thank God for that, right? And so these 4 pillars really expand in 2024 what I believe is vital for you to be a healthy, productive individual and leader. So you want the coach, the person who talks to you. This is about performance. You want the sponsor, the person who's talking about you. Sometimes, when we can think about executive sponsors, that's the role that they play within ERGs. The therapist, now this is likely not in your work environment. This is something you have to invest into. The person who's talking to you more about the things that are impacting you. And then the mentor talks with you. They help you process through. ERGs are unique places to identify and cultivate these essential relationships. And so I want you to take some time after this session to consider which of these relationships do you have, and which of them might you be able to identify within the environment of an ERG. Because I have heard story after story of people finding these powerful connections in ERG relationships. So I want to pulse you all before we get to Q&A, because we are getting to that time. Which of the career board of advisors do you need to identify to support you most immediately? We didn't include therapists here because they're not in the workplace, but I want you to respond to which of these relationships within your ERG could be most supportive to you. Are you looking for a coach? Are you looking for a mentor? Is it important that you have a sponsor, the person who is speaking up for you when you are not in the room? I want to hear from you today. 10 seconds. This is powerful. 75% of you said a sponsor. Oops, changes, y'all. Okay. The rest said a mentor or a coach. Sponsor comes up most of the time. I have facilitated this session, including at the Saramount Emerge conference earlier this year. This by far sponsor was a significant opportunity. So that's something that I would put down. If you're a program manager or ERG leader who's in the house today, that is a conversation and a training development or space that you all can look to help support the bridge connection to within your ERGs. How do you identify and position yourself to be sponsored? That is a topic that I would suggest you all look into. Finally, therapy, that's not listed here, but everyone here should consider wellness, mental health. And so you might need a sponsor, but also a therapist, or you might have that down pat. Consider what's important for you. We are now at the end and we will go into questions. You have a worksheet and these slides tagged to the worksheet portal. Please take advantage of it and use it for your edification. If you're interested in connecting with me for ERG leadership development, coaching, or conference speaking, please connect on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help you all as you plan for 2025. Finally, we turn this presentation into an article that you can share with your colleagues who aren't here. So you can scan the QR code on the right to snag that article. And of course, again, you can connect on LinkedIn. Now let's get to questions. Do we have any questions? Let's see. What questions do you all have as it relates to catapulting your career and ERG leadership? Or what are some of the slides that I can support today? One came in. How would you strategically choose a sponsor? How would you develop a relationship to that? Well, this is really powerful. For one, this is why the sponsorship response is so compelling to me, because the truth of the matter is sponsors typically come to you. They observe your impact on the job in your current role. They observe your impact in your ERG. You host an event. They're seeing you engage your colleagues. They're seeing you build partnerships. They're seeing your leadership displayed. And they say, oh my gosh, that's a person who I want to see develop. Or at a minimum, I want to have a conversation with them and seek to understand where they want to go and how I can be supportive. So the best thing I can offer for sponsorship is do an amazing job in the role that you are in. Be active in the ERG that you're in to the point where people see you authentically showing up as your best self. And then certainly sometimes conversations will start to forge. Take advantage of them, say yes to the coffee, say yes to the meeting, follow up, nurture the relationship as you would any other. Okay, Sedestris, the QR codes will be in the PDF that were linked, so you can go to that as a reference point, okay? You all can reference that. Final question for today from Geronda. How do you help ERG leads alleviate the fear that ERG leadership could impact their career negatively, meaning they believe that being an ERG lead could be viewed as impacting their career negatively? Okay, this comes up a lot. So in my final 60 seconds, here is what I will offer to you. Two things I want you to consider. Number one, this is why when you say yes to ER leadership, it should never be at the expense of performance in your current job. You have to be doing your best in your job and an example of what it means to be actively engaged in whatever role that you're in. Second, it is important for you to have messaging. Performance reviews are coming up. How are you able to translate to your manager and leader what you have gained and what you have offered to your organization in your ERG capacity. That messaging tends to be an opportunity for ERG leaders. How do you speak about the skills and the impact in a way that your manager can take that away and actually leverage that to support your development? So those are two things that I would encourage you to look for as you consider the ERG impact. Folks, we are at the end. I hope you found this session to be value additive. Thank you again to the T.A.G.S team. I am such fans of the work that they are doing and the impact that they are having across the globe. And folks, please stay in touch with me on LinkedIn. Take care and best wishes to you.